Welcome, friends of Middle-earth. Today we're diving into one of the darkest and most haunting tales from Tolkien's legendarium, the Children of Húrin. This is a story of tragedy, heroism, and the weight of destiny. A tale that stands apart for its sheer depth and sorrow. If you've ever wondered what it means to stand against overwhelming darkness and pay the ultimate price, this story is for you. Set long before the events of The Lord of the Rings, in the first age of Middle-earth, this epic unfolds against the backdrop of the war between Morgoth, the original Dark Lord, and the free peoples of Beleriand. At its heart lies the family of Húrin, whose defiance of Morgoth triggers a curse that shapes their lives in unimaginable ways. Let's begin with the foundation of this tragic saga, the defiance of Húrin and the curse of Morgoth. The story begins in the vast and turbulent First Age of Middle-earth, a time when Morgoth, the great enemy, rules from his stronghold of Angband. Húrin, a mortal man of the House of Hador, stands as one of the most valiant warriors of his time. During the Niënor Arnodiad, or the Battle of Unnumbered Tears, Húrin fights alongside the elves in a desperate alliance to overthrow Morgoth. The battle ends in catastrophe, leaving the free peoples shattered. Húrin, however, refuses to retreat. Captured by Morgoth, Húrin is brought to the throne of the Dark Lord himself, and this is where the story takes a dark turn. Morgoth demands that Húrin reveal the location of Gondolin, the hidden city of the elves. But Húrin's courage shines through as he refuses. He mocks Morgoth, saying, "You speak of secrecy and discretion, you who will betray your own servants. You lie. I do not know the thing that you desire." Enraged, Morgoth curses Húrin and his family, declaring that their lives will be a tapestry of misery woven by his will. To ensure this, Morgoth binds Húrin to a stone seat atop Thangorodrim, forcing him to witness the unfolding doom of his loved ones. He is powerless to intervene, watching as the curse twists the lives of his children, Túrin and Niënor, into a tragic nightmare. This moment is pivotal because it establishes the stakes for the entire story. Morgoth doesn't merely punish Húrin, he turns his defiance into a weapon, using it to corrupt and destroy everything Húrin holds dear. The curse isn't just a supernatural blight, it's a psychological torment designed to break Húrin's spirit and prove Morgoth's dominance. But what does this curse mean for Túrin, Morwen, and Niënor? That's where the story truly begins to unravel, as their lives become an unwitting battlefield for Morgoth's malice. The curse of Morgoth begins to manifest most profoundly in the life of Túrin, Húrin's son. Túrin is only a child when his father is captured, and the shadow of the curse falls over his family. Morwen, Túrin's mother, is left to fend for herself and her children as their homeland, Dor Lomin, is overrun by Easterlings loyal to Morgoth. Determined to protect her son, Morwen sends Túrin away to the Elven kingdom of Doriath, where he is fostered by King Thingol and his queen, Melian. In Doriath, Túrin grows into a skilled warrior, admired for his strength and bravery. However, the curse begins to show itself in subtle ways. Túrin's pride and quick temper create friction with others in Thingol's court. This comes to a head when Túrin has a heated argument with Cyros, an elf who mocks his human heritage. In a moment of rage, Túrin chases Cyros, who falls to his death. Although Thingol forgives Túrin, the young man flees Doriath, mistakenly believing he will be punished. This self-imposed exile marks the beginning of Túrin's descent into a life of wandering. He joins a band of outlaws, becoming their leader. But even among them, his pride and defiance set him apart. Túrin tries to channel his anger into protecting the weak and fighting Morgoth's forces. But the curse ensures that even his victories come at a cost. Wherever he goes, tragedy seems to follow, leaving destruction in its wake. What makes Túrin's story so compelling is how it combines his innate heroism with the inescapable weight of the curse. He's a character of immense potential, but his inability to trust others and his tendency to act impulsively often lead to devastating consequences. Yet despite everything, Túrin refuses to give up. He pushes forward, trying to carve his own destiny, even as the shadow of Morgoth looms over him. As Túrin's story unfolds, his path intersects with other key figures, and the consequences of Morgoth's curse grow ever more severe. But what happens when this curse begins to affect those closest to him, his family? That's where the story takes an even darker turn. While Túrin carves his path in exile, his mother Morwen and sister Niënor remain in Dor Lomin, struggling to survive under the oppressive rule of Morgoth's Easterling servants. Morwen, proud and resilient, refuses to abandon her home, even as the curse of Morgoth continues to work its poison. She holds on to the hope that Túrin, now grown and living in Doriath, might one day return to save them. Years pass, and as the situation in Dor Lomin worsens, Morwen finally decides to leave. She sets out for Doriath, bringing Niënor with her, only to discover that Túrin has already left the safety of Thingol's court. Heartbroken but undeterred, Morwen continues her search for her son, dragging Niënor into an increasingly perilous journey. It's here that the curse of Morgoth takes a crueler turn. Their search leads them near the lair of Glaurung, the great dragon and a servant of Morgoth. Glaurung's presence embodies everything malevolent about the Dark Lord's influence: deceit, malice, and the power to twist fate itself. As Morwen and Niënor approach his domain, Glaurung manipulates events to ensure that their paths will cross Túrin in the most devastating way possible. Niënor's fate is particularly tragic. As they draw closer to Glaurung, the dragon uses his cunning and magical power to cast a spell on her, erasing her memory entirely. Stripped of her identity and her past, Niënor becomes a pawn in Morgoth's larger scheme to destroy Húrin's family. Morwen is lost in the chaos, leaving Niënor alone, wandering aimlessly through the wild. What makes this part of the story so impactful is the relentless cruelty of Morgoth's curse. It's not enough for Húrin's family to endure loss and hardship. They are robbed of agency and forced into situations where they unknowingly contribute to their own suffering. Niënor's amnesia becomes the catalyst for one of the most devastating twists in the tale. But for now, her fate is left hanging, a ticking time bomb in the narrative. This chapter of the story emphasizes the depth of Morgoth's malice. His curse doesn't just inflict physical harm, it warps the bonds of family and love, turning them into sources of anguish. Yet even in the face of this overwhelming darkness, the resilience of Morwen and Niënor stands as a testament to their strength, however fleeting it may be. When Túrin first arrives in Doriath as a child, he is welcomed into the kingdom of the Sindar elves. a hidden sanctuary ruled by King Thingol and Queen Melian. The atmosphere of Doriath is one of beauty and wisdom, protected by the mystical Girdle of Melian, a magical barrier that keeps Morgoth's forces at bay. For Túrin, this is a rare moment of peace and safety, a stark contrast to the turmoil he left behind in Dor Lomin. Thingol treats Túrin as a foster son, granting him the honor of being raised among the elves. Under their care, Túrin grows into a formidable warrior and learns much of their lore and culture. Queen Melian, a Maya of great wisdom, senses the shadow of Morgoth's curse, but offers her guidance to Túrin, hoping to steer him toward a brighter path. However, Túrin's pride and deep-seated anger make him resistant to Melian's counsel, even as he begins to excel in the ways of war. This period of relative stability in Túrin's life highlights the duality of his character. On one hand, he shows immense potential, earning the respect of elven warriors and becoming a beacon of hope for those around him. On the other hand, his inner turmoil begins to surface in moments of rashness and arrogance. These traits, though understandable given his traumatic past, foreshadow the tragic events to come. A key moment occurs when Túrin is gifted a mighty sword by Thingol, symbolizing his acceptance into the ranks of Doriath's warriors. However, the sword also becomes a metaphor for Túrin's destiny. Sharp, powerful, but dangerous when wielded without caution. Despite the honor and trust placed in him, Túrin's inability to fully embrace the wisdom of the elves creates a subtle but growing tension. The turning point in Doriath comes with Túrin's conflict with Cyros, an elf who openly disdains humans. After enduring Cyros' insults for years, Túrin finally snaps, resulting in a fatal confrontation. Cyros' death marks the end of Túrin's time in Doriath. Consumed by guilt and fearing judgment, he flees into exile, leaving behind the safety of the Elven kingdom and the guidance of those who cared for him. This chapter of Túrin's life underscores the tragedy of lost opportunities. In Doriath, Túrin had a chance to find peace and purpose, but his pride and the shadow of Morgoth's curse pushed him away. It's a pattern that will repeat throughout his life as he struggles to break free from the forces that seem determined to destroy him. Túrin's conflict with Cyros is a pivotal moment that sets the tone for much of his life in exile. Cyros, a proud and disdainful elf in King Thingol's court, looks down upon Túrin's human heritage and takes every opportunity to belittle him. While Túrin endures this scorn for years, the tension between them eventually reaches a breaking point. The incident unfolds during a feast in Doriath, where Cyros, emboldened by drink, insults Túrin openly. He mocks Morwen, Túrin's mother, and questions the worth of men compared to elves. Túrin, who has always been fiercely protective of his family, cannot ignore the insult. His rage boils over, and he hurls a drinking vessel at Cyros, striking him and causing a scene in front of the court. The next day, Cyros confronts Túrin outside the halls of Doriath, seeking to settle the matter with violence. Armed with a sword, Cyros attacks, but Túrin, unarmed, overpowers him with sheer strength and skill. Túrin forces Cyros to flee, chasing him into the wild. In his panic, Cyros missteps and falls to his death while attempting to leap across a river. Although Túrin did not kill Cyros directly, the circumstances surrounding his death weigh heavily on him. He fears that the incident will lead to his punishment, despite Thingol's likely leniency. Convinced that he has no place left in Doriath, Túrin flees before judgment can be passed. This decision marks the beginning of his self-imposed exile and his descent into a life of wandering. This moment is significant because it highlights Túrin's impulsiveness and inability to navigate the complexities of his emotions. His pride and sense of justice drive him to defend his honor, but they also lead him to rash actions with far-reaching consequences. What could have been resolved through dialogue or Thingol's wisdom instead becomes a turning point that propels Túrin further into isolation. As Túrin leaves the safety of Doriath, he takes the first steps on a path filled with hardship and tragedy. The conflict with Cyros is not just a personal failing, but a reflection of the curse's influence, twisting every opportunity for stability into chaos. From this point on, Túrin's life becomes a relentless struggle against forces that seem determined to crush him, both from within and without. After fleeing Doriath, Túrin's life takes a darker turn as he ventures into the wilds of Middle-earth, alone and embittered. He eventually crosses paths with a group of outlaws, hardened men living on the fringes of society, surviving through theft and violence. At first, they see Túrin as a potential threat and plan to kill him, but his fierce demeanor and combat prowess quickly earn their respect. Túrin not only joins their ranks, but rises to become their leader. This new role brings a mix of camaraderie and conflict. Among the outlaws, Túrin finds a kind of kinship as they share his disdain for the powers that have cast them aside. Yet Túrin's pride and strong sense of morality create tension within the group. He imposes a stricter code of conduct, steering them away from preying on innocent people and focusing their efforts on fighting Morgoth's forces. Despite this, the shadow of his curse ensures that even these noble intentions often lead to disaster. One of Túrin's most notable acts during this time is his defense of a small village targeted by orcs. Though he succeeds in driving off the attackers, the cost is high. The village is left vulnerable, and Túrin's leadership brings unintended consequences as Morgoth's servants become aware of his presence. The outlaws, too, begin to question whether their loyalty to Túrin is worth the constant danger. This period of Túrin's life is marked by a growing internal conflict. He yearns to fight against Morgoth's evil and protect the weak, but his inability to trust others and his quick temper often isolate him further. His leadership among the outlaws highlights his natural charisma and strength, but it also underscores his tragic flaw, an unwillingness to let go of his pride, even when it leads to unnecessary suffering. Túrin's time with the outlaws sets the stage for his eventual return to the larger world of Beleriand. It is a microcosm of his broader struggle, showing how even his victories are tainted by the curse that follows him. The bonds he forms with these men are fleeting, and the hope they represent is inevitably overshadowed by the darkness that clings to his destiny. The question remains, can Túrin escape this cycle of destruction, or is he doomed to repeat it? As the story progresses, his path becomes entangled with greater forces, leading him to places of both triumph and profound loss. As Túrin's journey continues, his path eventually crosses with one of Morgoth's most terrifying servants, Glaurung, the father of dragons. Glaurung is not just a monstrous beast of fire and destruction. He is a cunning and malevolent force, wielding both physical power and the ability to manipulate the minds and emotions of others. His role in Túrin's life is pivotal, turning an already tragic story into one of devastating betrayal and manipulation. Túrin's first encounter with Glaurung occurs during his time in Nargothrond, a hidden elven kingdom where Túrin seeks refuge and later becomes a leader. Under his guidance, the people of Nargothrond begin waging open war against Morgoth's forces. However, Túrin's decision to fortify the kingdom with a bridge across the river Narog proves disastrous. It allows Morgoth's armies, led by Glaurung, to invade the once hidden realm. During the siege of Nargothrond, Glaurung unleashes his wrath, destroying the kingdom and scattering its people. Túrin, ever the valiant warrior, faces the dragon, but is ensnared by Glaurung's hypnotic gaze. The dragon paralyzes Túrin, not physically, but mentally and emotionally. With chilling words, Glaurung manipulates Túrin's sense of guilt, convincing him that his actions have doomed everyone he sought to protect. Perhaps Glaurung's most malevolent act in this encounter is his treatment of Finduilas, an elven maiden who harbors unspoken love for Túrin. As Túrin lies helpless under Glaurung's spell, the dragon allows Finduilas to be captured and taken away to her death. When Túrin finally breaks free from the dragon's hold, he realizes too late what has transpired. His failure to save Finduilas haunts him, deepening his sense of unworthiness and despair. Glaurung's role in Túrin's story is far more than that of a fearsome adversary. He embodies the psychological warfare Morgoth wages on Túrin, exploiting his insecurities and twisting his heroic intentions into sources of pain. The dragon's cunning and cruelty elevate him from a mere monster to a symbol of the inescapable shadow that Morgoth's curse casts over Túrin's life. This encounter leaves Túrin shattered, but it also sets the stage for the next tragic chapter of his story. Glaurung's influence doesn't end with the fall of Nargothrond. It lingers, ensuring that Túrin's journey will lead to even greater suffering for himself and those he loves. After his encounter with Glaurung and the fall of Nargothrond, Túrin's life spirals further into tragedy, with misunderstandings and deceptions playing a central role. These moments, often orchestrated by Morgoth through his servant Glaurung, highlight the devastating effects of the curse on Túrin and those around him. One of the most heart-wrenching misunderstandings occurs when Túrin learns of Finduilas' capture. Devastated by his failure to save her, Túrin sets out to rescue her, driven by a sense of guilt and responsibility. However, he arrives too late. Finduilas has been slain by orcs, and Túrin finds only her grave. This loss deepens Túrin's despair and cements his belief that his very presence brings ruin to those he tries to protect. Meanwhile, Niënor, Túrin's sister, becomes a victim of Glaurung's cunning after losing her memory due to the dragon's spell. She wanders the wilderness, vulnerable and alone, unaware of her true identity. She's eventually found and cared for by Túrin, who also does not recognize her as his sister. The two, bound by shared suffering and loneliness, form a deep bond that tragically evolves into love. Their union is the cruelest twist of Morgoth's curse. Through Glaurung's manipulation, the siblings are unaware of their true relationship, and their love, though innocent in their ignorance, becomes the linchpin of the curse's devastation. This catastrophic misunderstanding is revealed in the most horrific way during Túrin's final confrontation with Glaurung. As Túrin slays the dragon in a heroic act of vengeance, Glaurung uses his dying breath to unveil the truth. the revelation shatters both Túrin and Niënor. Overcome with horror and despair, Niënor takes her own life by throwing herself into a ravine. Túrin, left utterly broken, struggles to comprehend the magnitude of the curse's cruelty. This sequence of tragic misunderstandings underscores the depth of Morgoth's malice. By manipulating truth and perception, Morgoth ensures that the pain inflicted by his curse is not only physical, but deeply emotional and psychological. For Túrin, these events are the ultimate betrayal of his hopes, leaving him isolated and consumed by the very forces he sought to defy. Before the full weight of Morgoth's curse unravels Túrin's life, his time in Nargothrond offers a brief glimpse of his heroic potential. When Túrin arrives at this hidden Elven kingdom, he is welcomed by its people and quickly rises to a position of influence. His charisma, courage, and unmatched skill in battle earn him the trust of King Orodreth, who begins to rely on Túrin's counsel in matters of war. However, Túrin's pride and belief in open defiance against Morgoth lead to a fatal decision. Rejecting the traditional secrecy of Nargothrond, Túrin advocates for the construction of a great bridge over the river Niënor, making the kingdom more accessible for trade and military expeditions. This strategy, while bold, ultimately exposes Nargothrond's location to Morgoth's forces. When Glaurung leads an army of orcs against Nargothrond, the consequences of Túrin's actions become devastatingly clear. The bridge, intended as a symbol of strength, becomes the pathway for the enemy's invasion. Túrin fights valiantly, but the overwhelming force of Glaurung and the orcs leads to the kingdom's complete destruction. The city's people are slaughtered or enslaved, and Nargothrond, once a bastion of hope, is reduced to ruins. One of the most poignant moments of this tragedy is Túrin's attempt to rescue Finduilas. As Glaurung's forces overrun the city, she is taken captive along with many others. Túrin faces Glaurung in a desperate bid to save her, but the dragon's spell paralyzes him, leaving him helpless as Finduilas and the survivors are led away. The pain of his failure haunts Túrin, deepening his sense of guilt and reinforcing the idea that he brings destruction to all who rely on him. The fall of Nargothrond marks a turning point in Túrin's story. His intentions, though noble, lead to catastrophic consequences, further isolating him and amplifying the effects of Morgoth's curse. The loss of Nargothrond and the betrayal of his own judgment weigh heavily on Túrin, driving him deeper into despair. This chapter emphasizes the complexity of Túrin's character. He is a hero capable of great deeds, yet his flaws, pride, stubbornness, and an inability to heed the wisdom of others magnify the curse's impact. The fall of Nargothrond is not just a loss of a kingdom. It is a profound symbol of how even the brightest hopes can be extinguished under the shadow of Morgoth. After the fall of Nargothrond and the death of Finduilas, the focus shifts to Niënor, Túrin's sister, whose story intertwines tragically with his own. Morwen, Túrin's mother, refuses to believe that her son is dead and sets out to find him, bringing Niënor along on the perilous journey. They venture near the ruins of Nargothrond, unaware of the danger that still lingers in the form of Glaurung. The great dragon, ever cunning and malevolent, senses their approach and seizes the opportunity to further Morgoth's curse. As Morwen and Niënor reach the area, Glaurung casts a powerful spell on Niënor. The enchantment robs her of her memory, leaving her unaware of her identity, her past, or even her family ties. Morwen becomes separated from her daughter in the chaos, and Niënor is left to wander aimlessly through the wilderness. This act by Glaurung is not random, it is calculated, ensuring that Niënor becomes a living embodiment of Morgoth's curse. Stripped of her agency and knowledge, she becomes a pawn in a game she doesn't even realize she's playing. The dragon's spell not only isolates her, but also sets in motion the tragic events that will follow when she unknowingly crosses paths with her brother. Niënor's plight is heartbreaking. Alone and vulnerable, she is eventually found by Túrin, who is now living under the name Turambar, meaning Master of Doom, in an effort to reject his cursed lineage. Túrin, unaware that the woman he has rescued is his own sister, takes her into his care. Over time, the two form a deep bond, drawn together by their shared suffering and loneliness. Niënor, given the name Niënor, Tear Maiden, by Túrin, begins to heal under his protection, though the shadow of their true identities looms ominously. Their growing closeness and eventual marriage are a direct result of Glaurung's manipulation. The dragon's spell ensures that they remain blind to the truth until it is too late. This union, while seemingly a source of comfort for both Túrin and Niënor, becomes the ultimate realization of Morgoth's curse, twisting love and family into sources of unimaginable sorrow. Niënor's fate is a masterclass in Tolkien's ability to weave tragedy into his narratives. Her character, though deeply sympathetic, is a reflection of how Morgoth's malice corrupts even the purest bonds. Her innocence and vulnerability make her suffering all the more poignant as she is swept along by forces far beyond her control. As Túrin and Niënor, begin their life together, they find a fleeting sense of peace. Túrin, still living under the name Turambar, serves as a protector for the people of Brethil, defending them against the ever-present threats of Morgoth's forces. His marriage to Niënor provides a glimmer of hope, suggesting that perhaps the shadow of the curse might be lifted. But this moment of happiness is tragically only the calm before the storm. The final chapter of Túrin's story begins with the reappearance of Glaurung. The dragon, recovering from his earlier confrontation with Túrin, sets his sights on Brethil, determined to finish what he started. Túrin, unable to ignore the threat to his new home and family, resolves to face Glaurung one last time. This decision is driven not just by a sense of duty, but also by a desire to prove that he can defy the curse and reclaim control over his fate. In a heroic confrontation, Túrin ambushes Glaurung at Cabed-en-Aras, a narrow ravine. With his black sword, Gurthang, Túrin strikes a fatal blow to the dragon, driving the blade deep into Glaurung's belly. The victory is hard won, and Glaurung's death marks one of Túrin's greatest achievements. However, the dragon's malice does not die with him. In his final moments, Glaurung delivers the ultimate blow. He reveals the truth about Túrin and Niënor's relationship. The revelation shatters both Túrin and Niënor. Niënor, overwhelmed by horror and despair, takes her own life by throwing herself into the ravine. Túrin, left to grapple with the full weight of the curse, wanders aimlessly, consumed by guilt and anguish. He returns to the people of Brethil, but the truth of his actions spreads quickly, further isolating him from those he sought to protect. In the end, Túrin decides that he can no longer bear the burden of his life. stand by the same blade that slew Glaurung, he utters his final words. Hail, Gurthang! No lord or loyalty dost thou know, save the hand that wielded thee. From no blood wilt thou shrink. Will you therefore take Túrin Turambar? Will you slay me swiftly? The sword answers silently, and Túrin falls upon it, ending his life. This final act encapsulates the essence of Túrin's tragedy. Despite his immense strength and heroism, he is unable to escape the shadow of Morgoth's curse. His death is not just an end to his suffering, but also a symbol of the devastating power of fate in Tolkien's world. It leaves the reader with a profound sense of sorrow, as well as a lingering question. Was Túrin a victim of the curse, or of his own choices? The tale of the Children of Húrin is one of Tolkien's most harrowing works, a masterful exploration of tragedy, fate, and the enduring fight against darkness. Túrin Turambar's story is not just about heroism or defiance. It's a deeply human narrative of pride, loss, and the consequences of choices made under unimaginable pressure. It reminds us that even in a world of high fantasy, the struggles of identity, family, and destiny resonate with a universal truth. This story is not only a cornerstone of Tolkien's legendarium, but also a vital part of the broader mythology of Middle-earth. It adds layers of depth to the First Age, showing us the toll of Morgoth's reign and the resilience of those who dared to stand against him. For fans of The Lord of the Rings, The Children of Húrin offers a glimpse into the roots of the epic struggle against evil that defines Tolkien's world. So what are your thoughts on Túrin's tragic journey? Do you see him as a victim of Morgoth's curse? Or do his flaws play a larger role in his fate? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. And if you haven't read The Children of Húrin, it's time to dive into this dark and gripping tale. It's an essential read for anyone looking to truly understand the complexities of Middle-earth. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Tolkien's work, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more stories from the rich tapestry of Middle-earth. From the glory of Gondolin to the whispers of Valinor, we're here to explore it all. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next journey into the legendarium. Thank you for joining us today, and may the light of Eärendil guide you always. Until next time, farewell, friends of Middle-earth.